Hi, and welcome to DNN, the Drunk News Network, because you have to be a little drunk to make any goddamn sense of today's world. I'm your host, AB, and I'm not actually wearing any pants. DNN is here to deliver you a potent shot of truth in a world of fake news. We're going to share a drink or seven, opinions, news headlines, and, maybe have a little bit of fun. I don't know. All delivered through the rose-colored glass of drunk. So, first and foremost, let's make a drink. Today's drink of choice is Maker's Mark, and we're going to do a Kentucky Mule. I'm going to do a pretty hefty pour here. 2, 3, 4, 5. And we're using the mixer, which is the sugar-free Zevia ginger beer, which I love. And unfortunately, despite all the green, I am totally out of limes. So we're not going to use a lime, which I would usually use. Just going to put a little fill on this here. Give it a stir. And as will become the routine in Drunk News, we will have a toast and share a sip together before we get into our headlines. First and foremost, I want to mention our sponsor, which is Intox Detox. It's a all-natural hangover remedy with 2 ingredients clinically proven to both protect your liver and help avoid the misery of the next day. So the word I didn't say there was hangover, because the FDA doesn't let us say that word. But first and foremost, we're going to synchronize our livers by taking our pack of Intox Detox, 4 capsules down the chute. I wish it could be 1. It's not magic. It's science. It takes all 4. So I usually do 2 swallows. Got a hole in my lip. You can take it with your beer, your alcohol. I prefer to take it with another beverage. In this case, it's a Coca-Cola Zero Sugar, which I prefer Zevia Cola, but I don't have any in the house right now. I sprung for the Zevia ginger beer, but not the Zevia Cola. So as a toast, as plagiarized by a friend from an Italian guy he met once, the drinking quote for today is, "Chi non vedi il fondo, non vedi il mondo." And that's Italian. It means he who doesn't see the bottom of the glass doesn't see the world. Put that through your brain, meat. It's deep stuff. In the meantime, cheers to you and yours. Oh yeah, that's delicious. In Irish, we just say sláinte. But let's get into the headlines for the day. And some of these are a little serious. So, put your big boy pants on, or big girl pants on. Put your thinking cap on. We're going to get into it. First, I wanted to bring up something I saw from Art Cashin, who's actually in King World News. He's a regular contributor. If you don't know King World News, Google it, go check it out. If you want to know what's really going on in the financial world, geopolitics, that is a place you need to check out. Usually, he's a stock market guy on Wall Street. He's on the floor, and he's been for 40 plus years. So he knows his stuff. So when he talks, you listen. However, this interview I found interesting because he was actually talking about sunspots, which is more of a science thing, and it's a little hokey for some people, but they monitor the cycles of sunspots because it affects things on Earth. And in this case, the sunspot level is one of the lowest ever in history. And another time when we had very low sunspot activity was during a mini ice age. And he was talking about how he was alive during this time, and in New York, the part of the bay actually froze. And if you don't know this, salt water freezes at a very, very low temperature. It's very hard to freeze salt water. And he said you could actually walk to I want to say Staten Island or something from I don't know the details. It's fascinating to me. And we're actually going through a period which may be why this winter has been so cold so far. So it's very interesting. It's a little bit off the beaten path of what Art Cashin usually talks about. So go to King World News and check out that interview. And they also talk about financial markets and what he sees coming down the pike for 2019. So that was interesting. But I wanted to can we get Bill Nye Bill Nye? Oh, no, he never responded to my request to do an interview of him about hangovers, the science of hangovers, because yeah, he seems like a really nice guy, but why didn't he return my email? Bill Nye, science guy, what's your deal? I'm a nice guy too. Hangovers are a real important science we need to talk about. Anyway, let's get to our second headline. This was also on King World News, and it's a guy named Egon von Greyerz, who I really like to read his stuff. And the headline is Central Banks Have Triggered a Global Collapse. So if you're not caught up, since 2008, the central banks of the world have been doing QE, quantitative easing. They've been printing all this money, essentially monetizing their debt, buying their own debt, which is just absurd. And they also bought all the mortgage-backed securities and a lot of bad paper from the 2008 crisis. They bought it from the banks to recapitalize the banks so the banks didn't go out of business. So if you didn't know that, then you didn't watch The Big Short, or you've been living in a cave somewhere. That is what's been going on. Well, they blew up this huge bubble of credit by printing all this money and taking on so much debt. I think the world's total debt is like 250 trillion or something like that. And that doesn't even include the derivatives, which are in the quadrillions. These numbers are unimaginable. I mean, if you had if you spent $1 million since the day Jesus was born until today, you still wouldn't have spent $1 trillion. So it's very hard for our little human monkey brains to wrap around the concept of what trillions means. And it's something that's going to come up again and again because I'm very interested in economics and the financial world, because you don't understand that economics is the most important thing in your life. I mean, your ability to get food and shelter and the things that you need to live all has to do with economics. The Revolutionary War was fought for economics, for freedom from British tyranny. And so economics is one of the biggest factors of human freedom. If you don't have the freedom to be as an economic entity supported by the rule of law, then you get to where Venezuela is now, and socialism has just ruined that country. I mean, they're eating zoo animals because they're starving to death and they can't get toilet paper and basic things that they need, especially food and water. So it's just a disaster. And so that tells you, if you don't care about economics, well, you probably care about freedom, and economics is very important to your freedom. So let me get down off my soapbox and just finish this thought. Basically, von Greyerz is saying that they've actually pricked this bubble by raising interest rates. So the collapse has already begun, and it's going to be a slow moving train wreck. And going into 2019, a lot of the people that I listen to, I'm not the expert. I deliver you the expert opinions. I gather together the information and I'm just giving it to you. I don't have a dog in the fight. I'm basically a political atheist. I'm apolitical at this point because I think everybody's gone crazy and it's all divisive. It's all identity politics and putting you in a box and basically just making us fight to distract us from what's really going on. That's my opinion. But economics and finance is a matter of numbers. So you can argue over where you want to spend money, or maybe you don't like the way the money's being spent, but the numbers don't lie. It's just math. So we have a math problem with the economy of the United States and the monetary policy. And that's what von Greyerz is always talking about, is how they've blown up this bubble, raising interest rates. Essentially, with all the debt, interest rates have to be at zero, and the Fed has been raising interest rates. So they've pricked this bubble, and it's caused a lot of malinvestment in the markets. All very boring. And while we're talking about collapse, let's get to the third headline, which is a guy that I really respect, Ron Paul. And he's asking, who's going to get blamed for the collapse? Because the collapse is going to come. Again, it's a mathematical inevitability. The question is just when. And if you knew when, then you could short everything, just like The Big Short. A lot of people don't understand. The Big Short is like the 2008 collapse for dummies. It's almost at a child level of understanding. If you understood the complexity of derivatives and the mortgage-backed securities and the banking system and all these things, it's so much more complex. But I like the movie because it told the story in a way that the average person could understand. And I think the average person is more knowledgeable about geopolitics and finance and economics because of that movie. However, it was very simplified. So there's a lot more going on. The math problem is that, the whole thing's coming down. It's going to collapse again. All they did was they printed a lot of money to basically, prolong the system, which essentially is a Ponzi scheme, and it has to collapse, as all Ponzi schemes do. And so Ron Paul is asking, who's going to get blamed? Is it going to be Trump? Because unfortunately, I listen to Peter Schiff a lot, and you're going to hear me talk about Peter Schiff a lot. I'm a huge fan, and I just like him. He's a libertarian. He seems like a great guy. He made a lot of money on, the right bets from the 2008 collapse. And he used to be on CNBC, and they would laugh at him and say, oh, he's a crank because he's saying, housing prices can't go up forever. The stock market can't go up forever. He knew that it was going to collapse. And so I have a lot of respect for him. But, he was saying how Trump as a candidate would say, oh, the unemployment numbers are fake. The stock market's a bubble. Janet Yellen, the then Fed chairperson, was a lunatic, and Obama was crazy, and the recovery was fake. It was all fake. Well, now that he's the president, Schiff always says, now that he's the president, it's all because of him. So the market that was fake and was a bubble is now real, and it's all because he's so great. Which basically he's setting himself up for a big fall. And I don't think he's a dummy. I think he knows this. So he's come out recently criticizing the Fed for raising interest rates. And I think he's setting them up for the fall. But the question is, will the American public swallow that pill? Will they understand enough to know that the Fed actually has caused a lot of problems by blowing up this enormous bubble? But I just think it's going to be so much easier to blame Trump. So since he's taking all the credit for all this economic success, he's going to take the fall if the economy goes down. And that's basically what Ron Paul is saying. If you have a chance, check out Ron Paul's Liberty Report, which is a great podcast that he does. And he talks about all these issues way more intelligently than I'm going to, and a lot less drunk, actually. We're just here to have some fun. Our last headline for today is about Jay Powell, who is now the current Fed chairperson. And it's from Nomi Prins. Again, you're going to hear these names over and over again. I have a lot of respect for Nomi Prins. She was a banking insider who basically came out and blew the whistle and said, they're committing fraud. They're this is crazy what they're doing. Nomi Prins, look her up. She has a couple books out there. I'm blanking on them. One of them is All of the President's Bankers. It's about the 2008 collapse and how the banks of the world, were going to go under, and they saved them by printing a lot of money. And then she has a new one about the Fed, and it's very interesting. So she's very focused on the Fed and monetary policy, which you may think is boring. You may think doesn't affect you, but it does. It affects every time you spend a dollar, every time you buy gas, every time you do anything. The Fed's monetary policy is affecting you. And it has your whole life. You just didn't know it. So anyway, so she's basically saying, recently, as I mentioned, Trump has criticized the Fed. He actually called them loco, and or something along those lines. He said they're crazy for raising interest rates. Well, they're trapped. So she's saying that Jerome Powell is trapped because he has to raise interest rates. Otherwise, you just can't keep interest rates at zero forever. So he has to raise them, but at the same time, he knows it's going to cause a crash. And because of all the debt I mentioned before that we have in the world, when interest rates go up, the servicing of that debt becomes more expensive. And you get to the point where at almost $22 trillion in debt, the U.S. government, they're not going to be able to afford to service that debt if the interest rates go up. I mean, traditionally, I believe interest rates on average are 5%. And now we're at, I think, 2 point something. And so we're not even half of the normal historical interest rate. And in the 80s, when I was a kid, when my parents bought their first house, Volcker had to fight the inflation. So he raised interest rates into the high teens, early 20s. My parents bought their first house with something like a 17-18% rate on their mortgage. I mean, can you even imagine that? How much that would slow down commerce? People, they're not going to buy houses. They're going to wait out the storm and wait for the rates to go down. And that could happen again. I mean, it might need to happen because with the money printing and the low interest rates, we may have just incredible inflation And when prices hit the average person, they already are. I mean, you notice, everyone I talk to notices in the grocery store, you get less for more money. It's everywhere. I mean, I noticed things like almond butter. I mean, 5 to 8 years ago, a little jar of almond butter was $3 or $4, and now it's $8, $9, $10 for good quality natural almond butter. That's a small thing, but it's something that I like, that I buy, that I've noticed in the marketplace. I've noticed, huge inflation on a lot of food goods that, you buy them and the bags are smaller, or there's 4 popsicles instead of 5 or 6 or 10, and at the same price or even at a higher price. So, great article on goldsilver.com has the link to Nomi Prin's article. Jay Powell can't win. He was very hawkish, saying, we're going to keep raising interest rates through 2019. And now he's become dovish all of a sudden. Now that the stock market has taken a bit of a nosedive, we've had a couple crazy, swings in the stock market, in the Dow specifically. Last week, dropped 800 points and then recovered almost all of that drop in the same day. So very volatile markets going on. And essentially with the interest rates, who cares if Powell, is he a hawk? Is he a dove? Is he an eagle? Is he a beagle? Like, who cares? The interest rates are going to prick this bubble, and setting interest rates to begin with is the Fed essentially price setting. It's like communism. It's like state controlled prices, and how the market is very good at setting prices, because it combines the decisions of millions and on a global scale, billions of people. So the market is smarter than any one person or any share, board of people who decide, well, what should whiskey cost? What should ginger beer cost? What should anything cost for that matter? Nobody knows. And to say that is just incredible hubris. And so that's what the Fed has done. They've tried to basically, negate business cycles, crashes and booms by trying to set prices, starting with the most important price of all, which is the price of money. When you borrow money, the price for borrowing money is the interest rate, and they set that rate. And it's absolutely criminal, but it's the way our world works, which is why we need a few drinks to try to wrap our heads around these things. Ultimately, her point of this article is, when will it all collapse? When will it all come down? Nobody knows. So, of course, we have a theme here today with our headlines, and that's basically this bubble, this sucker is coming down. You might as well have a few drinks. You might as well enjoy your life, hug your family, enjoy stuff. It's not the end of America. It's just the end of credit expansion, and things are going to change. Things are going to be different. And I think that the average person on the street has already felt this and knows what's coming. So let's change gears and let's talk about sports real quick. And I hope to have more incisive, developed sports stories for you. But for now, I'm in Washington, D.C., born and raised in Northern Virginia. I'm a Redskins fan. Okay. So our sports report for today is that the Redskins suck. That's it. They suck. They lost to the Giants big. They're 6-7. It looked like their season was maybe going to turn around. Alex Smith got hurt, and then Colt McCoy came in. I think now we're down to Mark Sanchez, which bless his heart for trying. But, the Redskins suck, and I don't think they're improving anytime soon. So that's our sports report for today, brought to you by Intox Detox. Rolling right along, we have another part of our show that we're going to call Sobering Facts. These are just random facts that I looked up to boggle your mind a little bit. The first one is, there is a mushroom called Phallus industia, and this mushroom can make a woman orgasm spontaneously by smelling it. Why are we not developing this product? This is $1 billion product. Put it in a glass of beer or wine, even better. And I think this is something this is a truly magical mushroom. And I think you ask, what do women want? Well, they want this mushroom. Talk about a magical mushroom tip. Cheers to that mushroom. I think we all need a little more of that mushroom in our lives. The next sobering fact is a threefer. These are just unrelated facts that maybe you'll make some sense out of. First of all, the average penis is 5.57 inches in length. So I was cheated by about -6 inches. I once saw Billy Crystal, and he had a joke. It was a great, I think it was called, what was it, 1,000 Sundays? It was about his father, and it was very moving, and it was funny, and, you cried, you laughed. I saw him in Los Angeles, and I really wish my mom was there because she's such a big Billy Crystal fan. But he had a joke in there, and he said, when he was born, he was born with an 11-inch penis, and they proceeded to circumcise 8 inches off of it, which I always thought was just very funny, very humble man. I never met him personally. I didn't get to see him backstage, unfortunately. I wished I did, but very, very cool guy. So the first sobering fact is that the average penis is 5.57 inches in length. Now, don't despair, because the next unrelated fact is that oral sex can actually lengthen the penis. Ladies, as much as you want that mushroom, you probably want just a little more something. And you can get it. There's a very simple way to do it. And the third of the threefer is another unrelated fact, that sperm is actually a highly effective wrinkle treatment. I'm just going to leave that there. Going to let it just wash over you and your face to think about. So the drunk quote of today, which is the next segment, let me have a sip here. I'm getting thirsty. Drunk quote of the day comes from Frank Sinatra, who knew a thing or two about drinking and singing. I've actually been listening to Christmas music, and I'm enjoying his renditions. And you don't realize how many of the classic holiday music is actually Frank Sinatra, or I don't realize, because it's a little bit before my time, but I appreciate talent and genius, which it seems like he had. So the quote is this, and we'll toast to it. Alcohol may be man's worst enemy, but the Bible says, love your enemy. I couldn't agree more. And cheers to that. And to Old Blue Eyes. There's somebody I know who also has some blue eyes, but I can't sing quite like he does. I'm not as much of a crooner. Swill your whiskey around and sing. How could he sing like that with all those cigarettes and the scotch and whiskey? Blows your mind. Anyway, the next segment is a book review. And this book is interesting. It was written up in the Washington Post, and it's right up my alley, and you're going to know why. It's called Hungover. One Man's Quest for the Cure, or something like that. There's like a subtitles, who cares? The point is hungover. And this guy traveled around, and he's Irish, of course, stereotypes. But he traveled around, and he was looking for a hangover cure. So I can relate to this. Full disclosure, I am the owner of Intox Detox, our sponsor. And I had this same quest for about 10 years. And it's interesting because in the article, it's clear that he knows what he's talking about, because he talks about inflammation. He talks about stomach acid. He talks about dehydration, the brain shrinking, other things swelling. Alcohol has a lot of effects on your body. Toast to that, right? It's clearly a poison, a fun poison, but it's a poison. So I like where he's going with it. And he also talks about how, Intox Detox is capsules. And he talks about how everybody with their little drinks now, it's all these little drinks. And he says he believes that capsules are more effective. So that supports our product. We are actually trying to develop a liquid of our product for people that don't like capsules. But interesting that he says that. I mean, the capsule is actually a pretty ingenious invention. I mean, before that, people, everything would be, you would drink medicine, which not all things taste good. You used to be able to buy like heroin and what else? Heroin and morphine from like the Sears catalog. It was just a medicine that people had around in case, a tree falls on your leg and you got to amputate your leg. You're going to want to have some morphine or something to take the edge off. So anyway, I digress. The whole show is really a digression. I mean, I'm always digressing. I pursue digression with aggression. It's pretty much my strategy of life. But anyway, So, medicine wasn't always so tasty. So you put it in a little capsule and you deliver it into your stomach. So you don't have to taste it. Pretty ingenious. Before that, you had to drink it straight down or shoot it up your butt or, put a needle in your arm. Obviously, the other ingenious thing in human history for medicine delivery is the hypodermic needle. But, herbal remedies, we don't really want to go around sticking needles in ourselves all the time. And to some people, capsules are just as bad, I guess. But, people say, oh, I hate capsules. I'm like, oh, it could be a needle. Or you could just eat the herbs and they would taste terrible. So capsules are actually quite an amazing development in human history. So the interesting thing about this book review is that no one ever does book reviews before they read the book. I actually haven't read the book yet, but I wanted to tell you about it. The guy's name is Shaughnessy Bishop Stall. He's obviously he's a freelance writer. He's obviously connected because nobody from the Washington Post is ringing my phone to interview me about hangover cures, even though I've been doing it for, let's call it almost 5 years with the product Intox Detox, and about 5 years before that of thinking about it, researching it, talking about it. For people that knew me about 10 years ago, I was running around talking about this, saying, hey, I wanted to make this, I wanted to develop it. And some people listened to me. Most people thought I was crazy. But so the guy, I'm anxious to read his book. I haven't read it yet. The cover looks nice. I like the concept. I like the article. Nobody does book reviews before they read the book. So, it's positive so far. So my review of his book is positive. So far, I like it, although I've only read a couple words. I did buy it on Kindle, and I'm starting to read it. But and so far, I like it. He starts out in Vegas, and I love Vegas. So, so far, there's nothing to not like about his book. But I'm interested to see what his hangover cure is, because for me, our product addresses specifically toxins, he talks about acetaldehyde, which is the main toxin that your body makes from drinking ethanol, which is this poisonous stuff. Yummy, yummy poison. And so he talks about that. And that's what we target specifically. But there's also dehydration and inflammation are other factors. So there are other things you can take. And these are tips that I will give you. I will divulge as we go forward. But there are other things you can do. Ideally, you would combine all of these things to address all the physiological factors. And people have tried to do that. So the funny thing he said in his article is that, they asked him, is he going to develop this commercially as a product, his 8 to 10 capsule hangover solution? And he said, well, everybody he knows that's tried it, they all say they're going to be billionaires, and none of them are billionaires. Well, that includes me. I'm not a billionaire yet. I'm working on it. I'm gonna get there. Oh yeah, because we have so many great ideas, and it's beside the point. I'll get to it some other time. So the other really, really interesting thing that he said is that, don't wait until after you have the hangover to treat it. Of course, in the dietary supplement world, we're not allowed to treat anything, but we're also specifically not allowed to do anything with hangovers because the FDA considers that to be a disease. But I like the fact that he said, it's what you do before and during your drinking that actually affects how you feel afterward, which is very true. So obviously, shameless plug here for Intox Detox, but it is an interesting book. People don't write and talk and study hangovers enough. And that's part of the reason that we do what we do. So I'm moving on from there. We're going to do a segment that I like to call a shot of truth. Okay. So today's shot of truth is going to be an interesting thing. I've been hearing about something called, I have a shot glass. I've been hearing about something called a jelly donut. And that is supposedly Chambord and RumChata. But I don't have RumChata. It's not something I would buy. So what we're going to do is we're going to do Chambord and pumpkin spice Baileys. Could be terrible, could be great. We're coming up on half an hour, and I want to get out of here. But let's do this shot of truth real quick, and then we're going to close things out. So I'm going to do about 3/4 of Chambord. I guess we're going to call this a pumpkin spice jelly donut. So I got some Bailey's pumpkin spice cream. I don't even know why anyone would drink this, but here it is. So we're going to, and now's the time, if you'd like to share a shot with me. And I'm going to give you today's shot of truth, the inaugural one. I'm done with that note. Okay. Cheers to you, Sláinte, que non vede o fundo, non vede o mundo. Again, he who doesn't see the bottom of the glass doesn't see the world. And this is my shot of truth. Ooh, quite good, actually. So here's my shot of truth for the day. I'm missing the paper I needed. Oh, as I said, this is a disclaimer. I'm apolitical. I am not your father. I am not your financial advisor. I am not your guru. I am not your life coach. I am not your AA sponsor. I am just a friendly person that likes to express my opinion, as I have the freedom to do. So tune in, listen to what I say, or don't. I speak the truth. I promote myself and my company, as you all should do for yourself and your company. And if you have a problem with that, go yourself. That's today's shot of truth. Think for yourself and drink for yourself. If you don't want to think, don't think. Just be a sheep. Get in line and slowly die. If you don't want to drink, don't drink. I don't care. I'll take your drink. You got an extra drink ticket? I'm the first one in line. But, people all the time, they say, I don't drink. Why are you looking at my stuff? Go do other things. It's fine. I don't watch rugby. People love rugby, but I don't watch it. I don't care about it. I don't criticize rugby because I don't like it. I don't care about it. So it's just funny how many people criticize people that it's like, it's not your thing, clearly. Just go away. Nobody asked you to be here. You don't have to be here. This is a story, and this segment is called Hey, Drunk Asshole. And I think we all have moments of this where we encounter people like this, or maybe you've been one yourself. I'm going to be humble and tell you a story about when I was one. So this segment of Hey, Drunk Asshole is a story about a New Year's Eve party, and it's coming up to the end of the year, so I thought it was cogent. I thought it was something that I should bring up. I was at a New Year's Eve party once, and I should have ninja stuff. Know your surroundings. I was at the house of a guy who's a finance guy. He works for a well-known bank. I'm not going to name the bank, and I'm not going to name the person. But I'm at his New Year's Eve party. It was a lovely New Year's Eve party. It was cocktails. He had like 4 different bourbons that everyone was drinking. It was a great time, and appetizers and just really nice cheeses and really fancy stuff, like the kind of stuff that I wouldn't buy. So it's nice for me. It was like I was in terms of like social stuff, I was above my pay grade probably. I'm like, I can be like a beer and hot dog guy. I can be any kind of guy. I can be, martini shaken, not stirred. I can be Pabst Blue Ribbon in a $2 can. I can be anything. I can be green coat. I can be no shirt. I'm all over the place. Some people would say that's a strength. I can get along with anyone. On this evening, though, I did not get along with him. I proceeded to have quite a few bourbons, as I do. And I believe I told him that he worked for the devil, the most evil organizations on the planet, which I still actually believe. I don't regret the thing I said. I regret saying it because it wasn't a nice thing to say. Obviously, his livelihood depends on working for an evil corporation. And let's face it, banks have admitted to doing a lot of evil things. No one ever goes to jail because there's no rule of law for bankers, but they've admitted to it. They've done money laundering for drug cartels that chop off people's heads with machetes. They've defrauded the world in rigging LIBOR and gold and silver prices. Don't even get me started. This is all proven. You can go look it up for yourself. Again, think for yourself, drink for yourself. But ultimately, they're evil empires. The Fed is just a group of banks that runs the money for America. And why they were given the task of printing America's money doesn't make any sense at all, because they charge interest on everything that they create. And Mike Maloney from goldsilver.com, you can check him out. He'll tell you all about it. When you create $1, there's a dollar of interest. Well, where do you get the dollar to pay the interest? You have to create more money. It's just an never ending, ever going expansion of debt and credit and inflation. And eventually it ends in ruin, which is why our collapse is coming. Didn't mean to go that far, but as you see, there's a through line to this program. It's all connected. So to that guy and his girlfriend, who I believe now is his wife, I'm sorry. He actually kicked me out of his house, which I deserved. You got to know your surroundings. If you're going to go to a party and drink the devil's whiskey, maybe don't call him out in front of his friends at the party. Was not cool. And that is today's iteration of, hey, drunk asshole, because I was the drunk asshole. So I want to thank you for checking out the inaugural EP, that's short for episode. This is my hip jive lingo of Drunk News and DNN. And check us out again. Someday I'm going to have some guests. I'm going to get some musical guests. I got a lot of things. I got a lot of ideas. I'm going to get guests like my mom and my sister and my friends. And I don't know, maybe some other people. I don't know. Is that Hank Aaron? Oh, he's dead. Is that Hank Aaron? No, that's Jackie Robinson. Wow. Yeah. That's why my sports report was lackluster. But no, I'll get some people on here. We'll get some celebrities. We'll get somebody somewhere. I know some people. I'll get some people on here. Don't you worry. I want to thank our sponsor, Intux Detox. Hangovers suck. Intux Detox works. I took it. It's good. It's a good product. The guy who created it is probably some kind of genius or something. But in all seriousness, it's the only hangover remedy on the market with 2 ingredients clinically proven to both protect your liver and help avoid the misery of the next morning. They're clinically dosed, clinically proven. Stuff works. That's it for Drunk News. I'll see you at the bar. I'm out of here. Bye-bye.